A couple weeks back, when I was busy getting nothing done, aside from going to my day job of course, Disney held their annual D23 expo. For those who somehow don't know what D23 is, it's basically the ultimate event for Disney fans. I think Disney actually claims that's what it is if I recall correctly. As a big fan of Disney content personally, it is in many ways my kind of event and it takes place in my general region of SoCal. So I could have gone to D23 if I wanted to, but sadly, I didn't buy tickets in time, and I have no friends that are big Disney fans like me. Despite not being able to go though, I have kept up with some of the news and much of the new content announced, specifically with the Pixar and Walt Disney Animation announcements. Now, given the numerous amount of content announced from an event like this, I'm definitely not gonna ramble about every interesting announcement they made. Also, since many of these announcements are still kind of vague in details, I don't have enough to say about them to make separate videos for each of these new movies and shows they talked about in the expo. So I am just giving my brief first impressions of each of these announcements, but overall, I will say that much of Pixar and Disney's announcements left me with rather mixed feelings surprisingly enough. I'll explain more throughout the video, but first, let's go through Pixar, specifically their next movie which is coming next year, Elio. Out of all of the projects talked about in this expo, I think this is the one we know the most. There is already a teaser trailer for this film. In fact, it was supposed to come out earlier this year before Inside Out 2, but it was delayed due to the actor strike from last year. I don't know how believable that reason is, to be honest, considering that Inside Out 2 was not delayed. The strike had at least some impact on the production for sure, but I personally believe that Pixar delayed it to divert some of its resources for Elio to work on Inside Out 2 and make sure the movie was as good as it is, which turned out to be a good trade-off so far if that's the case. Also, there is a very good chance that Elio might have gotten a major rewrite due to changes in leadership. As far as any new details for this film, there isn't really much from what I heard. The main thing that I learned about this movie is that it's going to focus a lot on the concept of loneliness. Admittedly, it's not that surprising given that the movie is about a boy being abducted by aliens and discovering how humanity is not alone in the universe. But also, the movie just gives isekai, fish out of water vibes, which seems to be a pretty common story trope in recent years. I'm not against it though. If it's remotely anything like the shows and movies I've watched in recent years, it most likely will be an enjoyable film for me. Although, the change in leadership and production delays do concern me when it comes to how good the movie will be compared to other Pixar films. The premise of the movie sounds intriguing enough, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pixar fumbles its execution and we end up getting another good dinosaur quality movie. Overall, I am still looking forward to this film, but like with most major projects, I am skeptical. But hey, at least it's good to know that Pixar has not abandoned their plans to make original movies like what some cynics claim they would do. They have a big incentive to make more sequels now for sure, but Pixar is not shy to show off new stories they have in their pipeline. In fact, they announced yet another original movie coming in 2026, Hoppers. This one definitely seems the most unique. The premise is that scientists were able to figure out how to transfer human consciousness to robotic animal bodies. The main character of the story, Mabel, uses this technology to become, presumably a beaver, and explore the mysteries of the animal world. Yeah, the premise really does seem outlandish on paper, to be honest. I mean, a girl willingly transferring their mind into an animal to explore the world of those animals is unlike any Pixar movie that I can think of. As much as people like to rip this movie for having a weird premise though, bear in mind that Pixar has gotten away with telling great stories with outlandish premises. Admit it, you didn't expect a movie about a rat controlling a human like a mech to become the world's greatest chef to be as phenomenal as it is. Also, while this premise seems different from other Pixar films, it's not really that much different compared to other stories that I follow. Another detail worth noting is that this movie will be directed by Daniel Chong, the same person who created We Bare Bears, which is a very popular, well-liked show, even among average people that I know. Now, those people like it because of the character designs, less so of the writing, but I never hear any bad things about the show, so I'm inclined to believe that Daniel Chong and those who work on the show know what they're doing. Overall, like Elio, I am very much looking forward to Hoppers while reserving some skepticism. That's how I approach most new original content that are announced. When there's not much to know about them, then why try to speculate whether it will be good? Regardless, I'm just hoping Disney does not mistreat these films like what they did with Pixar's other recent original films. Annoyingly, however, Pixar also announced and elaborated on other projects that Disney would most likely give preferential treatment. One of these films is, of course, Toy Story 5. Now, I've already made a video a while back where I speculated what the film will be about, and I sort of concluded that I couldn't come up with anything that I believe is worthy of a full-length blockbuster film. But after the announcements, I felt kind of embarrassed for not thinking that the movie would be about the toys going up against the rise of technology. Looking back in hindsight, it seems like a low-hanging fruit idea. I mean, ever since smartphones and tablets became mainstream, kids are not as likely to want to play with toys nowadays. So it does seem weird to think how this 30-year-old franchise never really addressed the rise of mobile devices, even though these films take place in the modern era for the most part. Except the franchise did address this issue before, not in a Toy Story movie, but in one of their holiday specials, Toy Story That Time Forgot. In this special, Bonnie brings a few of her toys to a playdate, but she ends up spending more of her time playing video games with her friend. Meanwhile, all of the toys had their own shenanigans, and, well, you can just watch the rest of it for yourself. It's actually a really good special for the most part. But yeah, this idea of advancing technology taking away time from playing with toys is something that Toy Story has covered before. To be fair, it wasn't the main topic of this special, but it was an underlying theme of it. Also, I do trust in Pixar's ability to make a story about the rise of technology very compelling. But even so, I'm still trying to figure out how they will reunite Woody and Buzz and the other toys without ruining the ending of the fourth movie. I don't know, there's probably some low-hanging idea that I'm too dumb to figure out. All in all, I'm still very skeptical that Toy Story 5 will be great, but I am less inclined to believe that it will be a dumpster fire of a film. The premise is actually interesting to me, and it brings an opportunity for Toy Story to provide a meta-critique of the modern human world that we live in. So while I am skeptical, I am at least curious now to see what Pixar comes up with to extend this series more. But as much as I am intrigued of it, Pixar made one film announcement that I think trounces it in terms of excitement. I am of course referring to Incredibles 3, which has been confirmed to be in the works. As of right now, there is no word to what the film will be about, given that it is still at its really early stages of development. But I am really hoping that it will be better than the second movie. Not saying that Incredibles 2 was bad, but I felt like it could have been way better. One way I can see Incredibles 3 be better is if the movie features a sizable time skip. I mean, imagine a movie where the entire Incredibles family gets older, and what potential storylines that can spawn. Bob and Helen would have to figure out what to do as heroes and parents now that they are getting up there in age. Violet and Dash are most likely to be in their late teens to early adulthood, and they have to figure out what kind of heroes they will be. Oh, and then there's Jack Jack, and who the hell knows what he will be like as an older child. There's probably some way to tell a compelling story about the Incredibles family without doing a major time skip, but as of right now, this seems to be the way in my opinion. But given how good the first Incredibles and Ratatouille were, you must not underestimate Brad Bird's ability to direct movies into greatness. Overall, I'm hyped to see this, and I'm really hoping it's as good as I imagine. Along with their upcoming movies, Pixar also talked about two new shows that will come out relatively soon. The first one being Win or Lose, which is their first ever original series. The show is about a co-ed softball team that is about to begin a big championship game in a week. Over the course of the series, each episode tells the story from the perspective of different characters, and as far as I can see, they seem to have rather wacky stories. I can't really say much about it, but at least from the aesthetics of the show with its use of a variety of animation styles, I am glad to see Pixar is experimental with this show. Will it be good? Well, who's to say? But I can at least give credit for Pixar for at least trying to do something new and unique, both from an animation perspective and from a storytelling perspective, since this is a show with multiple episodes being told from different perspectives, which is something they have never done before. The other show that Pixar announced is less of a risk, admittedly, but one I am still looking forward to seeing. Dream Productions. So this series is a spin-off of Inside Out about Riley's dreams, how they are made, and, well, you can probably figure out the rest of the premise at this point. After the success of Inside Out, especially as of recently, it's no surprise that Pixar is working on expanding the franchise. While I am somewhat worried that the company may be driven to milk the franchise indefinitely, if they had to do that, Inside Out is probably their best option. The human mind has so much potential for world building, and a spin-off about how dreams are produced is a great premise that I feel like anyone can enjoy. Also, I can see Pixar using this show as a way to pay homage to their production teams behind their movies. I can see them showing the struggles of media production, great meta humor, and callouts towards the media industry as a whole. Of course, what's important is that the show has a compelling story with great characters to relate to. But considering what Pixar has done with Inside Out over the years, we know that they care so much about these characters and what story they will tell with them. Bottom line, I am actually excited to see how this show turns out. It's easy to see the potential for the spin-off expansion of the world inside human minds, and I'm sure Pixar will do what it can to make sure it turns out as well as their Inside Out movies. So that's all of the Pixar announcements that I care about, and I realized that I have yet to talk about any of Disney Animation's announcements, and I'm already 4 pages into the script. So let's try to go through Disney's announcements a lot quicker, shall we? First, there is Moana 2. That movie is coming out in a few months from now, and out of all of the films actually, I am the most skeptical about this one, both in terms of how good the film will be, and how successful it will be in the box office. I've always felt that way ever since Disney announced that there will be a Moana sequel film in the beginning of the year, and this expo didn't really do much to help ease my skepticism. It's just hard to believe that Disney would make an animated movie from what was supposed to be a Disney Plus series, upgrade the animation quality, and do all of the voice acting within 9 months. I mean, I have seen more ambitious projects, but it's hard to believe that it will be done without cutting any corners. Also, the idea of turning a story that was written to be a show with multiple episodes into a 90-minute movie does not sound like it's ideal from a storytelling perspective. Because of these technical concerns that I have, I can see this movie being disappointing for many people out there, and if that's the case, then it probably wouldn't be that box office banger that Disney expects it to be. But hey, I'm no expert in movie production. Maybe they have been able to pull something together in short notice. Regardless, I'm still curious to check out this movie when it comes out, but my expectations are definitely pretty low. There's 2 movies left that Disney talked about that I have some interest in: Zootopia 2 and Frozen 3. I enjoyed the original Zootopia years ago, and I do believe the film has created a world with such high potential for further development, similar to Inside Out. So for it to get a sequel makes a lot of sense to me. Not much else to say, besides I expect it to be good. However, it's harder to say the same thing for Frozen 3. Now, I get that Frozen is an extremely popular franchise for Disney, so it's not surprising that they are making a 3rd movie, and even a 4th one which apparently is being made at the same time. But after Frozen 2 turned out to be kind of underwhelming for me, my expectations for the next film are pretty low. That said, I do see potential storylines that can work for Frozen 3 given that Frozen 2 ended in a way that left the doors open for future installments. So the potential for Frozen 3 being a great film is actually higher compared to something like Toy Story 5, for example. Overall, I cannot say I am excited to see this, or even if I'm willing to watch this in theaters when it comes out in 2027, but I sure hope it is great for those die-hard Frozen fans out there. Okay, that was a lot to go through. After looking through all these announcements and seeing what Disney and Pixar are cooking up, I have no doubt that their future in terms of box office success is looking bright. But when it comes to the content itself, I can't help but agree with the general consensus that Disney is relying too heavily on their pre-existing IPs. With Pixar, I will give credit to them for continuing to make original films like Elio, Hopper, and Win or Lose, but with the main Disney branch of films, it is all sequels from what I see. There's probably some original films that Disney did announce that just failed to reach in my newsfeed, although I guess that speaks more towards how the animation community talks about Disney's upcoming projects, but I guess that's a topic for another day. For now though, if you have anything to say about Disney and Pixar's future projects, feel free to write them down in the comments below, and please give this video a like, and subscribe for more content like this. With all that said, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.